Today's gardening lesson, we're going to be discussing how to and why to summer prune your fruit trees. We're going to start off with the olive tree behind me, then we're going to discuss our apple tree, our blueberry bush, and I'm even going to share how I summer pruned our PRUNE fruit tree just a few weeks ago and the results thereafter. Let's get started. Hi, my name is Charles Malki, biologist and plant expert with Ivory Organics, where we grow cool plants, and author of Saving the World with the Home Garden, improving our planet's health with natural gardening lessons. To begin, I want to start off with why you should consider summer pruning your fruit trees. So the first reason that comes to mind for why you should summer prune your fruit trees is the gardening concept known as the backyard orchard culture that we originally learned at Cameron Akrami's The Busy Gardener's YouTube channel when we visited him in his backyard orchard and learned this concept known as the backyard orchard culture. And we further delved and got into the concept with one of the leading educators on this concept, with Tom Spellman of the Dave Wilson Nursery. And the general, and these are just a couple of the principles, is to grow your fruit trees so that the fruits are all within range of picking, rather than allowing your fruit trees to go to the maximum height, such as this olive tree behind me that can easily soar 20, 30, 40 plus feet, and without having the right equipment, especially on a hillside as we've got here behind me. It's not ideal to be picking olives that are 20 to 30 plus feet above, within reach. But here, with just off the ground, I can pick hundreds, if not thousands of fruit, all within about a 6 to 8 or even a 10-foot reach. And that's just one of the concepts with the backyard orchard culture, is to make sure that you keep your plant within size. Another important reason for summer pruning is to maintain its shape. Another, to increase the stability of the tree. Something I've taught for many years now is the idea that you should have a base. The root system of the tree should be significantly larger and stronger than the top side of the plant. So always consider having like a top above the ground surface structure of the plant that is about 80 to 90% and not 100 and 110% of whatever that root system and root structure is. Just as you'll have branches within a tree that from year to year may die, there could be some disease and some dieback. Similarly, there's roots below the ground that are experiencing the same thing. And if the roots are, 80 or 90% of the plant structure compared to what's above the ground being 110 or more compared to the base, you're going to end up with a diseased or slow or sickly looking plant, as the base of the plant, that root system, is not supporting the above ground structure. So bringing in the plant a little tighter, you'll notice that there's going to be an immediate result of growth and health, and the plant can better support its own structure, in addition to better supporting fruit yields from year to year. Another one we just sort of mentioned is to always remove, if there's any dead growth within the plant, regardless of the time of the year, always remove the dead growth, remove any disease growth. And another important thing that will result from also doing your summer pruning is that you're going to improve the light within the structure of the plant, in addition to also improving the aeration, which will also help significantly reduce the risk of disease within the plant. So those are all of the pluses. The minuses, before we get to start pruning, minuses is to be very mindful and cautious of the fact that we're here in summer, and there's going to be parts of the plant now that have never seen the day of light since spring. Let's say let's say it was a bare root deciduous fruit tree, and now it's grown and shaded that lower canopy of the tree, lower tree trunk, lower branches, and now you're pruning and allowing this light to enter. And we've demonstrated several examples where, for example, in North Hollywood, we visited an orange tree where in spring they pruned a branch that was growing towards their pool, and within a matter of weeks, the trunk of the plant was exposed to too much light. We're going from, in the winter, 10 hours of daylight to, in the summer, 14 hours of daylight. And that extreme difference in amount of light, just like our own skin, if we're exposed to continuous light, will result in burn. So it's important to consider also whitewashing, which we're going to be demonstrating shortly. So be very mindful and cautious of the fact that you may be allowing too much light in what was once a very shaded part of the tree. Another important consideration is the time of the year. For us here in Southern California, it's the first week of August, and so we still have a grow season that's going to extend through August, September, October. In November, there'll be some slowdown. So we've still got 4 more months of growth So whatever we prune now is still going to result in a lot more growth that we're going to enjoy in the desired direction. One of the reasons to also prune is if there's growth in the wrong direction. Again, this is growth that happened within, and this leads to another reason to prune is if there's any growth that happened this year that's growing in the wrong direction, you're always going to want to also maintain shape and size. So you can bring that branch back in so that the plant is growing in the desired direction. Limit the amount of your pruning to this year's growth and don't go really past about 1 year's growth. Save your majority of your major pruning for later winter, and when I say later, it's usually after the last chance of frost has passed, but before bud and bloom break. So there's a narrow window of usually a few weeks. That's the ideal time to be pruning. For those that prune majorly in the fall and in the middle or early winter, the problem is you've got this structure of tree that's now exposed to the elements, and there may be some further dieback happening to the plant structure that otherwise wouldn't happen if you just wait for the ideal time, which again is after the last chance of frost has passed your specific grow zone area. The last thing I want to share with you in regards to the don'ts is do not prune if it's too close to dormancy for your plant. So depending on where you are in the country, if you're in your last month before the plant goes dormant, do not prune, as that's just going to force additional growth at the wrong time of year. So again, for us here in Southern California, and most of us in still the Southern United States, we've still got a good 3 to 4 months of growth, and summer will help get that growth in the right directions, rather than if you do nothing, the plant's going to keep on growing in just the wrong direction. So this is an excellent time to control the shape and the structure and the size. And so that's what we're going to do next is we're going to start pruning the olive tree behind me, which is a 3-in-1, which we've just recently made a 4-in-1. And let me share all the flavors and what we've done there. Let's get started. If you've got a multi-grafted fruit tree, such as this olive tree here behind me, which is grafted with 3 varieties and now actually 4 varieties of olives from 4 different parts of the country, all fruitful and all offering their unique flavor, quality, size, yields, and so forth that are unique to each of those specific grafted varieties. What we have here, and what I want to also explain, another advantage of summer pruning is what I also call balancing the strength between your grafts. Not all of the grafts have the same vigor depending on the scion wood or the selected flavor of that particular grafted variety. Some will grow too fast. For example, on a citrus tree, it's usually the lemon branches that'll grow faster than your orange. So if you've got orange and lemon on the same tree grafted, as we've done here with our multi-grafted olive tree, then you're going to want to balance and keep the lemon in check. Otherwise, it'll grow to the detriment of the orange, and eventually it'll shade out the orange branches, and the orange branches will die back, while all of the vigor and all the strength goes into the lemon branches. Another example we learned recently is with Richard Lee of the Grafting Dragon Fruit YouTube channel, and he explains an idea that he analogizes the flow of the juices and the minerals and the waters in the plant to a river. So if we follow that, if you want to follow over here, you can see all the different varieties that we've got. The river would be, if here's the source of water, the river and the flow is going into this branch over here is the Manzanillo olive tree. This one over here in the middle is the Hoji Blanca variety of olive. The one on to the right is the Toscana variety of olive. And then over here, right here in the middle, right where I've got my hand, maybe you can take a look. There's still, some evidence of the fact you can see where I've grafted using the approach grafting method, which is my favorite grafting method. Then you can see over here, we've got successfully grafted a mission olive tree. And these are obviously special for all of the missions here in California. Most of them are planted with the mission olive. And so we wanted to have a piece of that here on our property as well. But if we allow the tree to do what it wants to do, it's going to grow and shade out this mission olive tree to the detriment of the mission olive. So what we're going to do now is bring the other branches into check. Another reason for summer pruning, so that the growth that's going to happen this summer for the next few more months will help make this little branch a much larger branch, while we bring the larger branches back into check, so that all of the flavors have an equal opportunity at offering successful yields of olives for the years to come. The first thing that we're going to do to get started is you got to make sure, just as with the flow of water and minerals through the plant, is to make sure you remove any of the sucker growth. So about a month ago, I already removed all of the sucker growth. It was crazy how much sucker growth we had, similar to the apple tree we're going to see in just a moment. But We already cleaned out a lot of the sucker growth. I kind of thinned out some of the tree, but now together we're gonna thin out the rest of the tree. And I want you to see just how simple we can accomplish this. Something you may have also noticed is that as soon as I began thinning out the tree, I immediately whitewashed the product, and organically. I didn't use paint, but instead we used the Ivory Organic 3-in-1 Plant Guard, which offers protection against damaging sunburn, insects, and rodents. And it's for use on your roses, fruit, nut trees, ornamental trees, and shrubs. And it's for use in organic production, healthier than latex paint and tar-based products. And over here you can see it's OMRI listed for organic use. This product comes with a base organic powder. The 3-in-1 product also includes the oils, which offer insect and rodent repellent protection. With these oils, as you can see, which include castor, cinnamon, and clove, garlic, peppermint, rosemary, and spearmint. It also includes, which also helps for insect repellent protection, is diatomaceous earth. And what we did is simply brush the product onto the tree trunk. We also protected some of the lower branches. Over here you can see in color brown, and also in color green, so you can also see the differences on how the products works. And then there's the whitewash formula. If you're not looking for the insect or rodent repellent protection, you can also do it with an oil-free product such as the Blue Label whitewash. So let's get started at cutting. So as we mentioned, we've got 3 varieties of olives in here. The Manzanilla, as you can see, has more of an upright growth pattern. The one just behind it, the Hoji Blanca, similar upright growth pattern. But notice the Toscana olive over here. You can see that the branches kind of have a weeping pattern. So, I mean, if this is something that you're desiring, it does have some upward growth pattern, but it also has a lot of weeping branches, something you will not see with the other 2 varieties. But the issue with these weeping branches is that they're going to further contribute towards shade of our underlying desired grafted admission variety of olives. So the first thing I'm going to do is clean this plant off by removing all of this weeping structure. And here we go. My goal also, by the time I'm done, is that it shouldn't even look like I really even pruned it if you've done a good job. But you'll know that we pruned it because you're gonna see that the size is gonna be significantly smaller. When pruning it, to help make it look natural, if you come in a little closer, you'll see what I'm doing. You can see that with each of these branches, there's some offshoot, offside growth, and it doesn't really matter. It actually looks a lot more natural if you follow the new next layer of growth and just cut about 1/4 of an inch above that growth, like so. And you can see that that branch will now look like it's just continuously growing to these new tips. Another thing you can also do, if you don't have a grow tip, which we have another one over here, but you could also go to the next nearest leaf node, because the leaf node is where the next growth is gonna happen from these buds. And we can prune it again 1/4 of an inch away from those nodes, like so. And we're just gonna continue, and those are my tips on pruning throughout the rest of the tree. And let's see what these finished results are gonna look like. So I saved the final cut for us. Here we go. So you can kind of see the height. And that's it. Check this out. This is the majority of the cuttings. And so all of this is pretty much this year's growth and maybe just a little bit, no more than 1 year's growth. What we've done now by doing that is all of these growth tips, and it's not just teenagers that have hormones, but if you take a look here, the growth tips produce the auxins, the hormone auxins, and auxins create an inhibiting factor preventing some lateral growth along these buds. And then just below the ground, the root tips are producing cytokinins, another hormone that encourages root growth on the tips. So there's this balance of cytokinins and auxins. Auxins again, growth tips, cytokinins, root tips. This balance together has now been made imbalanced because we've taken off so many tips. The cytokinin hormones now within the plants are going to be disproportionately high, creating a lot more new growth and vigor within the plant. This is also an excellent time to also be feeding your plants to make sure that your plant has everything that it needs. So we've used this chart before in the past. As you can see, it's somewhat faded here, where this side represents the fertilizer, down below the seasons. And down on this corner would be winter, spring, summer, where we're approaching now 14 hours of daylight here in Southern California. And then we're going into the fall, and then winter, where the daylight hours are closer to 10 hours. the plant's metabolism is peaking now. The light hours are at a maximum sugars, maximum vitamins and minerals, and all the health and nutrition that the plant needs is being made and manufactured right now. So this is an important time to make sure that the soil is well fed and offers the plant all of the elements necessary for successful, healthy growth. And what we have here is the Ivory Organics all-purpose fertilizer. This super blend has the higher NPK percentages. Organic fertilizer, the only thing I'm going to say in regards to the organics is that your organic fertilizers are feeding the soil biology, whereas this synthetic, sometimes referred to as chemical, but the synthetic fertilizers do not feed the soil biology, do not feed the earthworms, beneficial bacteria, and the beneficial mycorrhiza fungus network that exists below the soil and offers your plant further health than these synthetics, which may also in fact be harming or killing those beneficial life that is necessary to the organic garden. So here we are fertilizing with a super blend fertilizers, or you can use the premium blend, which just simply has a lower NPK. Both fertilizers are focused on what's called the 6 macronutrients, as this product is sometimes referred to as, with nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, that's your NPK, but it also includes macronutrients, elements that plant needs in abundance. Calcium, magnesium, and sulfur, also includes iron, all of which is important for a healthy plant growth system. So we're simply going to be adding a few of the tablespoons around the plant structure like so. And keep in mind again with the chart that as we're approaching fall, we're going to be needing less fertilizer. And when you go into the winter months for your tropical plants, your evergreen plants, only consider doing more of a foliar feed. All of those directions you'll actually find on the back side of the label in regards to how to use the product for your potted plants, in-ground plantings, as well as foliar feeding. So what we're going to take now is our hand tool, and we're simply going to get the organic fertilizer in contact with the soil, no more than about 1/4 of an inch. And once we go to watering it, the product will begin to work. Something I've noticed also as I was pruning into the tree, that some of my late winter pruning that I've done was not protected. And so I'm simply going to now take our Ivory Organic 3-in-1 Plant Guard product that we discussed earlier. As you can see, and something I want to highlight, and I'll take you back in time, this was our first graft that we did. So this here is the Manzanillo original tree. All of these 3 branches were Manzanillo, but then grafted about 1 foot off the ground. This one over here was our first graft with the Hoja Blanca olive, and you can see that this here is where we cut off on the rootstock, and this here is the grafted wood, and now we've grafted onto the Hoja Blanca this Mission olive. And you can see that by now removing this much height off the plant, that we've now given our Mission olive graft an excellent chance at growth. So I'm now going to be taking the Ivory Organic 3-in-1 Plant Guard, the goal being again protecting. Now you can see all of the sun that's now hitting the bark. We're also going to be protecting these pruned branches that are here like so. So we're going to seal and keep disease as well as pests such as beetles and termites from entering those exposed surfaces. The other thing that's unique about this product compared to tar and latex paint, which again are designed to last 100 years, whereas this protection, well, even if it was paint, would only last about 1 year or 2 on the plant. As the plant grows, all of those flakes are going to end up in your soil, and you don't want that in your soil for 100 years as paint is designed. This here being organic is a healthier and natural alternative to paint and tar-based products. But the other thing is, unlike tar and paint, is the product dries on porous, so that those coated surfaces of wood will not rot as would a latex or tar-based product. For all of the other surfaces that are exposed, and it might be too hard to do a brush on in each of the stems and smaller branches within, we're simply going to use the Ivory Organic 3-in-1 Plant Guard ready to use spray, and again offers the same protection, but this is a lot lighter protection than if you were to brush on, offering a much thicker protection, which I recommend for the heart of the tree, being the tree trunk and lower branches. And then we're going to offer a light sunscreen protection to the rest of the plant like so. So while we're still here in the front yard, let me show you another tree and how we've protected it and the reason we protected it as well. Check this out. I figured you'd get a tour of some of the garden while we visited all these different plants here in the garden. So I figured you'd get a little tour of the garden as we visit some of the plants that are here on the property. This here is the Parfianca which is one of the best tasting and also considered a soft seed variety of pomegranate. And if you take a look here in this canopy, you can see that it's been whitewashed with the Ivory Organic color brown. So this here is our potted citrus kumquat tree, and you can see that it's been protected with the Ivory Organic 3-in-1 color green. You can see that we've protected the rootstock. It's grafted at this joint, and being that it's so long and the canopy is not quite completely shading the plant depending on the time of day, it's important to protect your tallest trees, and especially when they're in this tree form, from overexposure of sun to the tree trunk. And you can just check out all of the fruit and flowers that are happening here within the plant structure. And by protecting the plant from the elements, the plant can now focus more so on flowering and fruiting and growing rather than repairing first, second, and third degree sunburn damage. And that was probably the reason it was pruned. And then take a look at what happened underneath. Look at the bark, how it's peeling. All of this is dead skin. If this was your body, this would be your skin coming on. And it goes all the way down, all the way down, all of that damage. Take a look at those cracks. These are third degree burns on a plant. And I don't know if anyone has ever described this as third degree burns, but this is a third degree plant burn. So just here behind me is the Hass avocado tree. It's about 2 to 3 years old. Again, we protected the tree trunk with the Ivory Organic 3-in-1 plant guard on the lower tree trunk, lower branches, but on the higher and harder to get into branches, you can see that the leaves have all been protected with the foliar spray, and you can even see it on the stems that we didn't quite brush on. So this here in front of me is the Carmen Hass, and what's so cool about this Carmen Hass avocado is that they fruit 2 times a year. Unlike the majority of fruit trees that might fruit just once, this one actually has 2 and sometimes even 3, depending on the health of the avocado, up to 3 separate distinct fruiting periods, similar to dragon fruit, which will have on average 2 to 3 fruiting cycles per year. And what we've done with this, being that the growth is so young and fresh and it's got a lot of green stems, is again we use the foliar spray to protect the leaves and the stems, as the brush onto this green waxy surface will not be as effective as just spraying it with the foliar spray. And here's another example, the Reed avocado. And what we're gonna do here now is we're gonna prune our blueberry bush. Check out the growth when we planted this together about 2 years ago. And now we're gonna bring this again and check, make sure that it's growing within the area that we want it to be. So what we're gonna do now is prune this blueberry bush, a plant that we planted together about 2 years ago. We're gonna wanna make sure we do summer pruning now so that the buds, and I'm talking about the flowering buds, are in position now before it goes into dormancy. You don't wanna be cutting your blueberry bush in late winter or early spring because those buds are your flowering buds. But if you prune it now, the plant will grow a little bit more. It'll bud in the areas that you want it to, and those will be the buds that will flower and fruit in, again, the grow zone that you want it to be. So let's clean this up as well. The goal again is to maintain a nice vase shape, airy, sunlit structure. And again, we're gonna remove any branches that are in competition with other neighboring plants. And we'll start off by, again, I'm cleaning up this walkway and any branches that are coming out into it. We're simply going to be pruning back like so. So all of these 3 to 4 branches, I'll prune back to this single branch over here. And we can even shorten this branch like so. And we're going to continue forward like so. With all of our prunes that we're doing, we're being careful to stay just a 1/4 inch above each of the leaf nodes. And we'll continue. So here we've just thinned out the blueberry bush. You can see what we pruned. I might tighten this up a little bit more later on today. But again, we'll just go with the Whitewash Ivory Organic 3-in-1 plant guard and offer the entire plant some protection. As today's expected to approach the 90s, and all week will be in excess of 90 degrees. And we don't want any of these stems and branches burning unnecessarily. And that'll actually offer them some protection during the hottest days. And now check out this apple tree. Look at how beautiful. This is my 3-in-1 apple tree, grafted with, and check out, you can see all these different flavors ripening at different times. And grafting doesn't affect the flavor nor the size of the apple. These here are Granny Smith apples. And here again, we are first week of August. These will ripen close to October, November, December. Whereas we're already starting to enjoy this family favorite apple tree, which as you can see, it's got a reddish green. The more red, the more sweet. And even when it's got some red green, you got a good balance of the tartness and some acid with sugar flavor, which is the way I prefer having, is half red, half green, but it ripens all the way red and you've got a super sweet, delicious apple, unknown named variety. And then just behind it, we've got the Gala apples, which is a red variety. And if you can take a look through this forest, and this is a huge mistake that I've saved for you guys, you can see that this one here has been whitewashed color white, the Granny Smith color brown, and hopefully you can see through this forest, you'll see the whitewash ivory again is color green on the Gala apple. And what we need to do, and again, I'm going to refer back to Richard Lee of the Grafting Dragon Fruits YouTube channel, when we together pruned the dragon fruit branches and limited it to 1. Similarly, and as he explained it being, you know, the flow of water and nutrients like a river, what we've done here, and the big, huge mistake that again, I should have done a couple of months ago, as soon as the sucker growth, which is coming off the roots, occurred, I should have been pulling it back, because it's driving resources away from these apples, affecting size and quality and yields and flavor, and everything is being driven into sucker growth that we don't need when it should be going into the apple. And this is again, first week of August, a lot of growth, a lot of exciting things happening here in the garden, but these things need to be pruned even though it's summertime. So let's get to doing that. So check this out. I was trying to get the sucker growth out. I've even got some roots. And you may also notice that these suckers over here, I'm leaving them as these are suckers coming off of this root stock, a very special root stock that these apples have been grafted to that control the size, disease resistance, and just in general, the overall health of these apples. If I simply took a cutting off of this apple, or more successfully, you can air layer your apples as we've demonstrated on our fig trees and as we've demonstrated on our citrus trees, you can air layer your apple, but if it's sitting on its own roots, some roots and some varieties of apples on their own roots might not be adaptable specifically to your grow zone. This particular rootstock is called M111 or 111. And this particular rootstock is specific and one of the most desired varieties of rootstock, specifically for growing a medium to a medium large size tree. There's other rootstocks which would dwarf this apple tree to grow a maximum of 4 to 5 feet, such as a patio fruit tree. But this here, we wanted a more medium to a medium large size fruit tree, and it's the rootstock that controls it. So now I've got some more rootstock that I might be pulling away later this summer or going into the fall, possibly grafting it with other desired varieties of apples. So I've saved this, and I'm going to be repotting this as well, as we've got it from the ground, and we know that it's more M11 specific rootstock, ideal for grafting more apples. So I'm saving that and immediately going to be repotting that for use later on. And now I can see you. You can see that we removed all of that sucker growth, and now all of the water and all of the fertilizer that we enrich the soil with and all of the care and love that goes into caring for your fruit trees is now benefiting the desired branches and not all of that sucker growth that we have here below. Let me share just a couple more things with you before we conclude. So this here we pruned together just a few weeks ago. This here is the pluot that we gained from Zager Orchards. He, as we mentioned before, plants about 50,000 fruit trees a year from seed, grows them over about a 10-year period of time to determine which 2 or 3 flavors are the best. And this here we have behind us is called the Dapple Supreme flavor, exclusively available in the Northern Hemisphere by the Dave Wilson Nursery, and I'll put that link down below so you can check them out and find all of the local nurseries near you. These trees are one out of tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, if not millions. Like, the best of the genetics have been hybridized and natural process, non-GMO way through Zager's Orchard. And I had the honor and privilege of meeting with Floyd Zager just a year ago. And this here behind me is just one flavor that inspired me most and I had to bring back to the home orchard. And you can see again, we pruned this a few weeks ago and you can see all of this new growth that's happening. And in line with the backyard orchard culture concept, you can see we're now getting growth that'll eventually turn into the buds, as you can see here. These are the flower buds for come next spring, and it's all going to be at a height that is within reach. And you can see that as high as my reach is, all of the growth and all of the buds, which are going to control the flowers and fruit, are all going to be within reach. Come spring, when it grows another 10 feet taller, that's not going to control the flowers and fruit. That's just going to be more vegetative growth. All of the flowers and fruit are going to be from this year's growth that'll affect next year's production. So here's that, and then just behind me, check out our famous 10-to-1 fig tree. What I want to emphasize and share the most is this contrast between these tiger variegated variety of figs. So check those out. And then exactly just behind it, we've got the raspberry latte variety figs. Look at those purple figs. And then the tiger figs. And then just below it, we got the strawberry vert figs and Chicago Hardy and brown turkey and celestial, and the list continues. I'll do an entire lesson on this hopefully in the upcoming few weeks, and stay tuned for that. If you've enjoyed this educational lesson brought to you by Ivory Organics, be sure to give us a thumbs up, and also feel free to share this link with your gardening friends and family. As always, keep growing with Ivory Organics, and wishing you all happy gardening.